The world's first army combined with the largest economy on the planet has made the USA the most influential participant in any geopolitical processes.
Protecting the weak has always been a means of political influence for the USA, providing commercial and strategic benefits, particularly from arms sales, access to military facilities, and ensuring the legitimacy of joint military operations.
The flagship of the Democratic bloc, not without reason, considered the world's policeman. It is undoubtedly Washington that the Western world depends heavily upon for security and protection.
Washington did not fulfill this role selflessly. Americans have consistently considered it an utmost priority in their foreign policy to keep Europe within the free world and to prevent a new war on the continent, and utmost importance.
It is impossible to underestimate the role of the USA in the Russian-Ukrainian war. Without the financial and military support of the White House, 3 years of full-scale war would have been much more difficult for Ukraine. However, the determination of Ukrainian society to resist the Russian occupier for 11 years has never depended on whether overseas allies provided support packages to Ukraine or not. To begin with, the obvious should be stated. Over the 3 years of war, it was Washington that provided the most military aid to Kyiv. The USA is not just the largest economy on the planet, it is the Americans who have the largest military budget in the world. In 2024, it amounted to $886 billion.
According to the Kiel Institute, the USA provided us with military, technical, and macroeconomic assistance totaling about $112 billion. This is a very important factor that has enabled Ukraine's defense forces not only to hold territories and stop the advancement of the occupiers, but also to conduct a series of successful counter-offensive operations.
But it was not always like this. Regarding the occupation of Crimea and the start of the war in eastern Ukraine, the Western community, led by Barack Obama sitting in the White House, almost did not react. Minor sanctions, words of encouragement to Ukraine, and condemnation of Russia. This was the extent of Washington's support for Kyiv.
Russia's actions in Ukraine significantly weaken Russia. Russia's actions in Ukraine undoubtedly impact the Russian people. If Russia is prepared and fully willing to cease all forms of financing, supplying weapons, training combatants in Ukraine, and in many cases consistently supporting them with Russian troops and other forms of support and assistance, this is exactly what we are hoping for.
The lack of financial support, and most importantly any military supplies, was explained by the American administration by the fact that modern US weapons should not fall into the hands of Russian military and scientists.
It was about some advanced American high-tech and sophisticated weapons being captured by Russian occupiers, which led to a leak of sensitive information about the tactical and technical characteristics of these weapons. For this same reason, the US insisted that American weapons should not be on the front line of combat, but rather at the Yavoriv training ground.
Despite the fact that in the year 2014, the United States Congress did indeed pass the Ukraine Freedom Support Act, allowing the supply of lethal weapons, the Obama administration, for a period of approximately 3 years, did not make use of it. It was only in December 2017, during his first term, that US President Donald Trump authorized the first deliveries of lethal weapons to Ukraine. The deal included sniper systems, ammunition, and various spare parts with a total value of millions of dollars. A few months later, in March 2018, the US State Department announced the transfer of Javelin anti-tank systems and command launch units to Ukraine, valued at $47 million. This included 37 launch units and 210 missiles. To them, the Javelin is a portable anti-tank missile system produced by the American companies Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. It is the first serial third-generation anti-tank guided missile system that operates on the fire-and-forget principle. Thanks to its large warhead weighing kilograms, the Javelin easily penetrates even the most modern Russian tanks. The very fact of transferring the Javelins was meant to show the Russian Federation that the active use of armored vehicles and conducting active offensive operations as a clear signal will have negative consequences for the Russian Federation. The USA sent a powerful and clear military political signal to Russia that they can, if necessary, scale up military technical support for our country, and unwavering. In the end, that's exactly what happened. American Javelins, along with British NLAWs, played a crucial role in the first days of the full-scale invasion. Long before the discussions about supplying heavy equipment to Ukraine even began, Ukrainian soldiers were destroying Russian tank columns with the help of Western anti-tank guided missiles.
Uzari Yanitra, the 6th Regiment was almost lost. What? I can't report on the 6th Regiment yet. Still gathering information. We expected a lot of losses. The head of the column was ambushed. The regiment commander was killed, and the rest are in disarray.
Javelins played a decisive role in neutralizing Russian mechanized columns at that time. Guerrilla tactics were used. The first two vehicles and the last two vehicles, they blocked the column and then destroyed them like at a shooting range.
The next breakthrough delivery followed after it became clear that Ukraine was not going to surrender. After 3 months of war. On June 1st, 2022, the Biden administration delivered the first HIMARS MLRs to Ukraine. In the first days and weeks, the American MLRS proved themselves exceptionally well. Dozens of Russian military depots exploded along the entire front line. The technical characteristics of the HIMARS allowed it to accurately destroy any Russian targets at a depth of up to 70 kilometers. Thus, the several American MLRS in the hands of Ukrainian soldiers destroyed the existing logistics of the invading army. At that time,
the integrity of logistical support was disrupted. After the transfer of HIMARS to Ukraine, the occupiers were forced to take an unprecedented step, relocating the rear infrastructure more than 100 kilometers away, further inland, in order to remove ammunition and fuel depots from under attack.
January and February 2023 became some of the most productive months in terms of U.S. military assistance. Multi-billion-dollar packages, including hundreds of armored personnel carriers and IFVs, Bradleys, Strykers, and M113s, were massively sent to Ukraine. And on January 25th, 2023, President Joe Biden announced the provision to Ukraine of 31 tanks, M1 Abrams. In the most important aspect of crew protection, the American tank leads by a wide margin. While European colleagues are betting on heavy armor, the Americans have taken a slightly different approach. The Abrams are inferior to the Leopards in terms of armor, but they incorporate a unique crew protection technology in case of a direct hit.
In the Abrams, for example, there is implemented, I have a shielding system for the crew. For example, the ammunition. The ammunition is located in a part of the turret, or again, it is positioned in such a way that in the event of an explosion, blowout panels activate outward. That is, the main blast wave, it does not go inside the tank, it goes outward, it impacts through these panels into the open space.
Next were the long-range ATAC-EMS missiles, with which Ukraine began the elimination of the aggressor's military targets hundreds of kilometers away, deep into the occupied territories. And of course, the F-16 fighters, which are actively used in repelling air attacks and other operations directly on the front line. In 3 years of full-scale war, according to the Kiel Institute, military aid to Ukraine from Washington amounted to $67 billion. If Europe surpasses the US in providing financial aid, the US surpasses the EU in providing military aid. America remains the largest and most important partner of Ukraine, as it is the US that has the largest stockpile of ammunition, missiles, and heavy equipment in the entire Western Bloc. That's all for now. Don't forget to write in the comments about which types of weapons you would like to learn more about. Like this video and of course subscribe to our new Arsenal channel. The link is in the description below the video.